Welcome everyone to MJ Hobby Corner. I'm Martin, and today I'm going to try John Lamzed 1 hour skirmish war games for the very first time. Now this is an interesting system as it is a diceless system. You use decks of cards instead of dice. I have played Malifaux in the past, so this shouldn't be a problem. And from what I see, it's a very simple and very interesting little system. So let's get on with it. Okay, so the first army that I'm going to introduce, my enemy, is the Stygian Empire. And this is an army, a fantasy army that comes from the depths of the sea. I kind of like those armies, if you couldn't tell. So here is the leader. He is leadership 3. We'll find out how that works. He is also tough 2. And this is a Reef Lord. That's what I'm calling it. Now here we have a Surfling Scout. He is a scout. He has the ability Scout. We have a Piskin Impaler. He can actually throw that harpoon if he gets within 6 inches of another model. And then we have another Surfling Scout right here. We have a Tide Shaper. He is leadership 2, so if this leader dies, he takes over. He has a Coral Staff and a Ray Gun, which is pretty powerful. We have a Carcharodon Warrior, which is this shark guy right here. A very cool model from Hadros, cool mini or not. And he is a Carcharodon Warrior. He has toughness 2. And we'll see how that works, hopefully. And then here we have another Surfling Scout. Total of 7 models for my enemy. Okay, and we have the Feralborn. Now, the Feralborn are a very loose association of tribal humans, wild elves, and lots of lizard folk. So here we have the leader, who is Kenya. And Kenya is a wild elf. And this is one of my Circle Orboros figures that I'm using to represent her. So that's Kenya. And then we have a tribal human right here. We have another tribal human. He is an archer. We have a lizard man brute, scaled brute. And then we have 2 salamander fusiliers. And they have Arquebus. And yeah, these are Kroot models from GW. And then we have another tribal human with spear and shield. Now I do have, because close combat is so brutal in this game, I do have a shield house rule that maybe we'll see in game. So to begin the turn sequence, this will be the Stygian Empire's deck. It's a full card deck with the jokers. And this will be the Feralborn, again, full deck with jokers. So the first step is going to be initiative. We're each going to draw a card. They get a 7. Highest card wins. And I get a 1. Ace is a 1. So it looks like the Stygian Empire now gets the first move. All right, so the first player phase goes to the Stygian Empire. We're going to just put these in the discard pile to keep the area clear. And they draw a 5. Now, this is the activation card. I'm just going to call these activation points. So 5 activation points, just to make things easier when explaining. So basically, I could either move 5 models, which they have 7 models on the board. I can move 5 models, or I can move 1 model with 1 point, leaving me with 4. I can then move another model and maybe give them a shooting action, which then takes up 3 of the 5 points. Now, you can also move a single model. You can move it up to 3 times. However, when you do that, the cost of the movement each time goes up exponentially. So if I move a model once and I want to move it again, I can, but it's going to cost me 3 action points. If I move 3 moves, it's going to cost me a total of 5 points. So it goes up exponentially each time. So, and obviously I only have 5 points. So I think what I'm going to do is try to move all 5 figures. So we're going to come to our marsh here, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to choose 5 figures, and they're going to move and start scoring, etc., etc. I just want to correct myself. The second move will cost you a total of 3 points. So if you spent 1 to move the first time prior to that, it's going to be a total of 4. So you can see how it really grows exponentially when you give more than 1 move to a model, but you can do it. It's a way to really get the model forward quickly. Okay, so I'm going to use a 12-sided dice just to keep track of the points. You don't really have to do that, but I'm going to use Sharkman over here, the Carcaradan warrior. He's going to cross the bridge, and he moves a total of 6 points. 6 inches, sorry. He moves a total of 6 inches. All models on the table are considered infantry. I don't have anything different, so everybody's going to move 6 inches. That makes things a lot easier. And that's why this is an easy system. He's going to go here, and you don't have to move linearly. You can move, break up your movement however you want. And there he is. He's going to be on the first home island. That's going to set him up for scoring. Okay, second enemy model. So we moved 1. So we now have 4 movement points left. Yeah, this is a tough decision because if I move into the water, we're going to have to use our table. And bad things can happen with that table. So we're going to move the Piskin warrior first. And this is the Piskin impaler. He's going to move. So as soon as he goes into the water, he's got to stop. At least that's how I'm doing it. He's got to stop before he can complete his move. And we have to draw a card. So we draw a card from the Stygian deck. And we get clubs. What is clubs? The model finds good going a few inches down and moves normally. Okay, very good. So clubs was a good thing, actually. So he can move 6 inches, so that will put him right up on this bridge. So he'll be safe for now. You don't have to move your full 6 inches, and you don't have to use all of your points, but any points you don't use are lost. Okay, so the first player phase is over, and I'm just going to summarize. So our Tide Shaper moved to this island, so they're ready to score. And then there's no little gap here, so he could just move. Now, this guy, the little scout, he went into the water, so he drew a heart card. And the heart, when we look here, the model slips into a sinkhole. It may not move or fire. I eliminated the turn and put the phase. So he was basically stuck in the mud. He cannot move for 1 phase. And so I just wanted to show the result there. Now this little scout moved into the water, and then he drew a club. So the model finds good going a few inches down and moves normally. So he's on an island ready to score, and nothing has happened so far. And we see that the leader is patiently waiting, letting his minions go first to see what happens, because there's all these little tentacles and things sticking out of the water. All right, that ends the Stygian Empire's phase. We now go to the Ferroborn. So we draw activation points. Oh my goodness. That is a horrible, horrible draw. So we get 1 point. We can only move 1 model. So guess what? Now he has a 12-inch range, but there is cover. There's soft cover there. There isn't a lot of cover here, so this could work to our benefit. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so 12 inches. Yeah, I have firing range, so I can take a shot at that guy there with my 1 point, but we are going to give him soft cover. There is soft cover there, so we see how firing works. We only have 1 point, so I'm not going to put the die All he's going to be able to do is shoot this phase, and then it ends the phase and we start a new player phase. All right, so we just labeled that terrain soft terrain, so that means we have to, so soft terrain such as vegetation, 3 resolution cards are drawn, discarding the lower 2 for shooting. Okay, so we're going to discard our point. He is the attacker, so the attacker is going to draw 3 cards and discard the lower 2. So the lower 2 would be the 6 and the 12. We are left with a 13. I gave the Piskin Impaler tough 1, so he's going to get to draw an extra card when, look at that. What luck! Okay, so here's a very interesting situation, because with toughness 1, the Stygians drew the same exact card as the attack card. So the defense resolution is a King of Diamonds. So now what we have to do is my guys are forced to redraw a card because these are the same. They're even. Now, if we had even numbers, but not suits, then we go by the mnemonic, superheroes don't cry. Spades beats hearts, hearts beats diamonds, diamonds beats clubs. And so that's how we would determine the winner, the highest card. So they're even, so we are forced to draw another attack card. And they're forced to draw another resolution card. And both of these cards, actually. And now we have a 10 for the Stygians, and the redraw is a 6. Look at that. They're same suits, but they're not the same number. So highest number wins, Stygian blocks. So that Impaler is okay. So we see how abilities can actually impact the resolution cards, the draws, and are very important in this game. So we completed the second player phase, which is my phase, and now we see that we go back to 2 until a joker is revealed. So these are going to be, we're going to continue. They go, I go, they go, I go. Now, they had initiative, so it goes back to them. That's going to remain the same until a joker is pulled. So now Stygian Empire. Stygian Empire draws another 13. Wow, 13 activation points. Holy cow. Okay, so we have 13 points. I'm going to do a little house rule here. I'm going to put a little house rule. He's going to have to spend an extra point. We'll see if I remember that in the future. He has to spend an extra point because he's stuck in the sinkhole. So 2 points to do the 1 move, but he is now free to move. So this 13 goes down to 11. So right down to 11 points. And now he can move normally. He can move his 6 inches. And we're not going to do like difficult terrain or anything like that in the water. He's going to be able to like swim. So he's going to move right next to his buddy. It's a little bit out in the open, but it is what it is. All right. So there he is. Okay, so I think Carcharodon is going to move. This is the Carcharodon warrior, and he's going to move into the water. All right, so there he is in all his glory. That's going to be 1 point, so we're going to draw that down to 10. However, we got to draw a card. I'm just going to draw the card, and we drew spades. Now, spades I don't think is a good thing, okay? 8 of spades. The color of the card does not matter in this case. So when we look at spades, something pulls the model under, it does not reappear and is removed from the game. Poor Carcharodon. So we're going to move a large tentacle marker right there. And something has pulled the warrior under, and he does not resurface. He's gone. Okay, that's it. Matter of life and death here. It's pretty brutal. Okay, now he is a scout, so we're going to give him 1 point. He moves here. Now I want to move him again. I didn't give them fast. I should have given them the fast ability in addition to the scout ability. Now, scout ability helps them when they're shot at. So 10 goes down to 9 points, but I'm gonna give him another movement, and that will put him straight into the island. Now these guys are mostly melee, so they're not gonna have a lot of shooting capability. He's gonna be right there, and that costs a total of, well, another 3, so 9, 6, because I already paid the 1, so it was a total of 4. So from 10 down to 6. Okay. All right. Now they have 6 points left. And I think we're going to move the scout. They just saw one of theirs. Let's move this creature marker. They saw one of theirs disappear into the water. So I'm just going to draw a card. Oh, dear God. Okay. So another spade. And this guy, Tentacle, didn't have to move because, boop, he's out of there. Boy, this is brutal. Stygian phase is over. Our fearless leader here jumped into the water. He got clubs, so he was okay. And then he moved up on the island and took an extra move, which meant a total of 4 points, and moved there. And then we have this fella who jumped into the water, but he got hearts. And so hearts means that he slipped into a sinkhole. He cannot move the phase, and he is basically stuck. Stygians do get 1 more point. After this next phase, I will mark that. Okay. Okay, so it's the Furlborn phase, phase 4, and they just drew a 10 of diamonds, so they have 10 activation points. But a couple of things first. One thing is that when shooting, a model cannot shoot and then move. It cannot shoot and then try to go into cover. It simply stays there. After it's shot, it's in the open. That's it. Once you assign a shooting action to a model, that's it. Its activation ends. So no shooting, then moving. That's important. You can move double and shoot. You can move triple and shoot, but no shoot and move. So that was very important. And the other thing is, the one thing I want to correct that I'm doing wrong is that double moves are a flat 3. I don't really think it's like cumulative the way I was doing it. You know, you pay 1 point for the move, you decide to move again, then it becomes another 3. No. If you're doing a double move, it's all in one shot, and it's a flat 3. If you're doing a triple move, it's a flat 5. So that's very important. We're correcting things and learning at the same time. Okay, having said that, it is now time for them to do some things. Okay, so Furlborn have just added 2 points to their total. So Stygians are still in the lead with 1. Kenya moved right here on this island, and the Scaled Brute moved right here. So he's claiming that island. That's 2 victory points. Now we're going to do some shooting with this guy. Another thing that I forgot, and this is important because abilities are really important in this system since it's such a simple system. I gave them Deadshot 1. Both of these Fusiliers have Deadshot 1. What that means is that they'll draw an extra card while shooting. They'll draw an extra card and choose the highest number. So that's very important, and that's what we're going to do with this guy next. Okay, and now the target is going to be this scout. Now we are in range. He has a 12-inch range. I just checked that. We are in range. We're good. He can see him through the vegetation, but there is soft cover here. So I am going to allow him his scout ability. His scout ability says that he will draw an extra resolution card when defending, when in cover, against an incoming ranged attack. So that's what we're going to do. We drew 2 attack cards. We draw 2 resolution cards. Okay. Now, there is cover there as well. So I'm going to draw the extra 2. Doing a total of 4 cards for the defender. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Now, let's take this in order because this is an interesting one. Here's the attacker's cards. A 1 and a 7. Not good. So now, because of soft cover, we're going to get rid of the 2 lowest. And because of the scout ability, we're going to keep the highest and get rid of the lowest. 13, in this case, get rid of the lowest, versus 7. So, nope, the shot just goes into the bushes. Okay, and now this Fusilier, because this Fusilier's turn just ended, his activation ended, he shot. This guy jumps in the water, he gets diamonds for our table, and he is now at half movement, which means 3 inches. And now let's see. Yep, he can still make it up, so he's going to get closer before he shoots again. Okay, that resolves that. Now, I have already subtracted the point for this model as well as the previous one, so we have 5 more. And now we have an archer here. We're going to give him a shot at the leader. He has a 12-inch range, so he does have range. And he also has dead shot 1, so he's going to draw 2 attack cards. Now, because this is a leader, leadership is used in a couple of different ways. It's used as a bonus draw during morale check that is granted by the leader. So he is leadership 3. He would draw 3 resolution cards for morale. In close combat, a leader can use their leadership and throw 3 resolution cards for defending against an incoming melee. However, he cannot do that when being shot at. So he cannot use his leadership when being shot at. However, he does have toughness 2. So he can fall back on that and draw 2 resolution cards when being shot at. So here they are. Here's the leader. He draws 2. Picks the highest. All right. Well, the turn has immediately ended. So it doesn't matter what we drew. Nothing. It's done. So if this were a melee attack, then the attacker would withdraw 2 inches in addition to that. So now that the turn has ended, let's finish the steps to the turn. Okay, so now we're at step 5 because a joker has been revealed. Both players have to check army morale simultaneously. Now, both of these leaders have leadership 3, so we're going to see how leadership influences morale. She is leadership 3, and he, this tentacled guy, is leadership 3. So they both draw 3 cards during morale. Okay, so once the cards are drawn, and I have them on the little table, we'll check that in a minute. But first, we have to check the motivation for each army. Now, motivation is a stat that is controlled by the scenario. But since I'm using a scenario from another book, same author, but another book, it doesn't have the motivation stat. I assign the motivation stat in the beginning of the game. Now, because of the scenario, the Stygian Empire has motivation 2, and the Pharaohborn have motivation 3. Now, the Pharaohborn are fighting on their home soil. They're defending their territories, and the Stygian Empire are sort of the outsiders, and that's the reasoning behind the little discrepancy in numbers. Okay, so now that we know about motivation, motivation is a stat that covers your entire army. So now we turn here, we've got the 3 cards. Now we see that Stygians have 2 casualties and Pharaohborn have 1 casualty. We're going to turn the cards. Okay, as always, discard the lowest 2. Oop, I almost discarded the wrong cards. All right, 8 is the highest in this case. Okay, so that's the highest card. Now here, down here, the 2 lowest. So these are the 2 lowest. I'm mixing my piles here. So a 10 and an 8. Okay, so now what we do is we add the motivation stat to each of the cards. So the Stygian motivation is a 2. 8 plus 2 is 10. And we compare it to the casualty number. If it is greater than the casualty number, which it definitely is, the army has passed their motivation. If it is less than their casualty number, so let's say this would have been a 1, and I add my motivation of 2, and let's say we had 4 casualties. In that case, this army would have ran away. It failed its morale because the total is lower than the casualties inflicted. So in this case, however, this is way over the number 2, and the army has passed its morale. Same thing here. You add a 3 to this, that is a 13. It only has 1 casualty, so obviously it's going to be over. And that's it. We have checked morale, then we go on the board and check and make sure there are no downed models. Downed models are the result of ranged attacks, and so there's no downed models, so I don't have to check it. If there were, let's say there was a downed model, then I would have to draw a card. The color red is dead, and the color black means the model can stand up and keep fighting. And that's how you pretty much finish these steps to the turn. Also important is that the discard piles stay even as the turn has ended. Once the discard piles, the draw piles reach 0, that is, once one side is empty, you can then reshuffle your cards. Okay, turn 2 initiative, and I'm gonna start really summarizing things. And okay, Feralborn get initiative this turn, and we repeat the steps, the phases now go on and on until we get another Joker. Okay, so to start, I only had 3 activation points, so my archer, tribal archer, jumps onto this island. Now, he cannot score because if there's an enemy on the island that I'm on, then they cannot score. That's something important that I didn't say in the beginning. So when there's 2 enemies on one island, you don't count those points. You only count if you control the island. Okay, so he's firing on him, and this time he has toughness 2. So he has dead shot 1, so they're both going to draw 2 cards. And guess what? I drew an 8, and I drew another Joker. So immediately the turn ends, nothing happens, and now we're going to do morale again for this second turn, sorry. Okay, and the cards for morale, and I'm going to see already that, you know, they're just going to pass without a problem. So we repeat the same steps, add the motivation stat to each of these, compare it to the casualties. If it's over the casualty number, then the army passes its morale. So nothing there, no knockdowns, nothing. So now turn 3 happens. Stygian Empire wins initiative during turn 3, and now we proceed to activation. Okay, so a charge is considered a standard move of 6 inches, so he is going to charge into the archer. Alright, let's see how that works. Okay, so in melee combat, he draws 2 cards for the charge and keeps the highest, and then his leadership of 3. Only in melee can he do this. He can also do this when shooting if he has a ranged weapon, but not when being shot at. So we're going to eliminate the lowest from here, okay, and then eliminate the lowest from here, and then out of these 2, the 6 goes, and we have a 9 as the ultimate melee attack. Now, this model does not have a shield, so there's no house rule protecting it. It only defends with 1. It has a 5. It has lost. And this model is destroyed immediately. Melee combat is quick and decisive. It is brutal, and that's the way it goes. Now, also important, one thing is that the archer fired at the leader, and the reason being is when you shoot at targets, you shoot at the closest targets. And the rationale behind that is that your leader could actually hide behind other models, lower ranking models, actually take cover behind them. So you have to shoot the closest model. And that's that. Okay. The Tide Shaper fires his ray gun, and we only have 3 points left here, activation points. He fires at the closest model, which is this Fusilier, and now ray guns tend to hit hard. I'm going to ignore the soft cover. They have armor piercing 3, which means that they can pierce the armor of vehicles. So that's not a vehicle that he's firing on a regular guy. So let's see. It has an 18-inch range, so we know it's in range. It's going to ignore the soft cover. Does not have dead shot. So he's going to pull 1 card. And, okay, I defended. So we're fine. Now, if I had failed, and the difference of that failure between the 2 cards, the difference of that failure is equal to or greater than 5, instead of being knocked down by the ray gun, he would be out of the picture. And that's how ray guns work. So ray guns can be very dangerous in the hands of a figure with dead shot. Okay, the Stygian phase is over. This is still turn 3, but we have a model that jumped in the water. It cannot move. It got a heart result on the table, but this one jumped into the water and it got a spade. So it was consumed by some dangerous creature in the water, so he's out of there. All right, now the Stygians don't hardly have any models left. However, they do score at the end of this phase because of the leader being alone. He killed off the opponent, so no more competition there. Okay, it is the Feralborn's turn, and they have 11 points left. They got a 13 for activation points. This guy crosses over, kills the leader in a melee combat, and that was the end of that. So now casualties on Stygian side is really building up. They have 4 casualties now. The Shaper of the Tides is immediately promoted to leader. So now we have a leadership 2 leader instead of a leadership 3. Okay, the score is 4 to 3. 4 Stygians, 3 Feralborn. Thanks to this one bringing it up. And now we have this little tribal guy moving towards melee combat with the scout. The Piskin Impaler could not move. He was stuck there, and so one of the Fusiliers fired on him and downed him. Now, he was going to fire on this one. Was he the closest model? Yes, he was the closest model. He was going to fire on this one, who is the closest model to him. He's a little bit farther. So he fired, but that's the problem. We pulled another joker. Turn 3 is over, and I'm just going to check morale and see if the game is over. Okay, so morale. So we have leadership 2 here for the leader now because he took over. And leadership 3 for Kenya because she's still around. And now we look. Now there's 4 casualties now and 2 casualties. Motivation 2 on this side. So, we take the highest card, which is a 2. Discard the 1. 2 plus 2 is 4. That's equal to... So, yeah, so I just checked the rules. So, yeah, the total must beat and the number of casualties. It can't be equal. So, this is equal. So, this army has failed its morale. And now... oh, yeah, these guys have passed. Not a problem. They take the highest card because of the leadership. And so that's a 9 plus a 3, 12. They only have 2 casualties. They pass, they fail. So what happens with all the casualties is that Stygian Empire takes its losses. There's only really 3 models on the board anyway. So the game is about to finish anyway. So they run away. But... here's the thing, that's not really the best for me because they still have 1 point, 1 victory point over the Feralborn. So they managed to conquer enough territory to win before they actually leave the battlefield. And that ends the game. Well, that was 1 hour war games, 1 hour skirmish war games by John Lambshead. Not to be confused with 1 Hour War Games by Henry Hyde, which is the other game that I've played on this channel. Now that does utilize dice. It's a very simple mechanic. This one is based, it's very similar with the exception of the diceless mechanic. But it has rules in here from Napoleonic times all the way up to Cold War, and then a section for Pulp Fiction, which is where the ray gun came from. And then, so you have like rules for armor, tanks, vehicles, you know, that sort of thing. And we also didn't see the rules for artillery or crew-based weapons. You know, if I would have added a black powder cannon or something, that would definitely change things. And so there are rules for that. And you have extra rules for like weather and visibility, that sort of thing. So it's an interesting mechanic. I don't know what you guys thought. Some people don't like card-based war games. I get it. Everyone has different tastes. I played Malifaux a lot, and I really enjoyed Malifaux back in the day. And so this wasn't so much of a surprise. This is actually, I learned the rules very quickly. Now, I did make mistakes, and they were, I was able to pick them up while filming. But yes, there were mistakes. But it was a good game. It was fun. And I could definitely finish this game in like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, depending on the scenario. This is scenario driven. So scenarios will have different ways of winning victory. They may also impact the way models fight in melee. They may change the rules a little bit. You can capture people instead of killing them. But it's a very brutal and fast-paced system, as you guys saw, especially melee. Especially melee. So, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. The fantasy factions that I use, I thought worked very well. And this game definitely has, I could use it in some alternate history fiction with ease, I think. I could definitely use the vehicle rules and throw in some walkers, you know, and mix them in with some World War II tanks or World War I tanks, whatever it is I'm playing. So, pretty good. I enjoyed it. And I hope to do more with this system. Now, the other book by John Lamstead that I used, which was the scenario book, it's not connected to this game. It's actually a collection of scenarios, and they're designed for dice games as far as I can see. And it's just a bunch of scenarios, and you can use them with your favorite rules. But I thought it worked very well. All I had to do was change the table for this scenario. The table that dictated what happens when a model stepped over an island and into the water. That was it. All that terrain was made in one day, one afternoon. Scratch Builder Monthly, if you want to help support the channel, that's where all that terrain will be discussed in December issue. Or you can check out our Patreon, and our patrons do get a copy of the magazine with their subscription, and they get other videos as well. So, thank you very much, folks. This was a new game that I wanted to try for a long time. And, well, a new game for me, part of my Wargames Vault library. And in the future, I have the medieval rules for this as well. So maybe we'll try those out. All right, have a great one, folks, and I'll see you in the next video.